This program is rated PG. It contains themes and scenes which may not be suitable for very young audiences. Parental guidance is advised.
Be advised that the views and opinions of the hosts and guests do not reflect those of the station.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Global Village. I'm Buddy Kunanan. You know, folks, on this show, you learn about amazing places and meet interesting people as we talk about international culture and relations. Now, tonight's show is all about Spain, and we're featuring Instituto Cervantes, an organization based in Manila that is promoting Spanish culture and heritage in the Philippines. And joining us is none other than the director of Instituto Cervantes, Carlos Madrid. Carlos, welcome to Global Village.
Buddy, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
You know, I'm so glad you're here because this is the first time in Global Village, actually, we're going to talk in depth about Spanish culture and heritage. And, you know, Spain and the Philippines have such a good, long relationship. And I can't think of a country that has stronger ties culturally and historically than Spain and the Philippines.
Indeed, indeed. And for Instituto Cervantes, in fact, it's the only country that Instituto Cervantes is where Spanish was official, but is no longer in use. Because Instituto is established in countries where Spanish is not spoken.
Yes.
But the Philippines is one of those that is in the boundaries.
Yes.
Where
It's a strange situation with Spanish in the
indeed.
Philippines, and it's a result of our history, both traditional and current. But before we jump into that, let's talk about you. And you also have a very good, strong link to the Philippines.
Well, I mean, yeah, I came when I was a student in 2003 to complete my masteral research in the National Archives, amazing place in Calao Street in Manila. And I completed the masteral. I lived here for 4 years, working in a publishing house, in Bibal Publishing House, and also collaborating with Instituto Cervantes de Manila, with the Embassy of Spain, when the director was our common friend Pepe, Pepe Rodriguez.
Yes.
And the ambassador was Ignacio Sagaz, that is residing in Manila. It has been an amazing place for me in my life, and I enjoy it so much. So when I came back as director of Instituto, it's a place that I knew that I have to discover the different parts that I have never been, that I have seen it's changing, it's bursting on activities, and it's a very dynamic society with very exciting things going on with the development of the economy, tourism, and of course with many challenges that many countries have, and we are no exception to that. But it, yeah, certainly has been it's a very special country for me.
And it's good that you have such a good connection with the Philippines and you've lived here before, because I think it also helps you push the interests and the agenda of your office now, because you understand the dynamic here, like, perhaps more than a lot of other directors, because of all the time you spent here in
Yes,
the
and
past.
one never stops to learn, right, and to discover. But I remember living in Malate in the early 2000s, where there were these very bohemian neighbors, well, all the artists, the journalists, the performers, and it was a very, very interesting. It was at the time when already Malate was somehow not being the center of the place to be during the weekends, and it was already Makati,
Yes,
the
yes.
Greenbelt area, but still it was a very, there was a constant artistic expression, and in the people, the debates, the tertulias, and in the different venues. I remember
Yes.
Republic of Malate, Our House, the Penguin Cafe, and that gave me a sense of the artistic community and with the institutions that they were at the time, the National Museum, the National Archives, National Library, the different foundations, Ayala, Ortigas, Lopez, and moreover the demand of the Filipino people to have, on one hand, if we go to cinema, for example,
Yes.
non-commercial, to go beyond Hollywood. If we are speaking of European cultural expressions, to pay attention to those. So in that sense, working in Instituto, that as a part of the Embassy of Spain, we're promoting the cultures of Spain and the cultures also of the Spanish-speaking countries. That,
Yes.
like with the Philippines, we share a common foundation that makes us, there's a common denominator, and at the same time,
Absolutely.
we're very different from one another. And that interaction is where Instituto plays a role as serving as a platform for cultural dialogue, for cultures in contact.
Yes, yes.
And it's fascinating.
Yes, interesting you mentioned that you know it's a particular situation in the Philippines where Instituto is here, but we have the Spanish heritage, obviously, but then that sort of disappeared, and then hence the big challenge for you guys in Instituto Cervantes to kind of revive this link with our
Well-
Spanish history.
Well, in a way, we see it from a point of view in which Instituto Cervantes promotes the cultures of Spain in the 21st century. What is the younger generations, the artists, the cultural expressions, the writers, the curators, and the pieces of artwork that we can share on the 21st century, and how can that influence and inspire, or how we can learn from the Filipino audiences, from that sharing, from that dialogue. We see also the rich Hispanic heritage in the Philippines as part of Filipino heritage, and
Absolutely.
and it's up to the Philippines to make use of it, and of course the Spanish government makes available resources to restore, to revive. For example, when we think of I'm just thinking the Spanish Agency for International Cooperation, they set up here the Escuela Taller
Yes.
in Intramuros that is devoted and is now a private foundation. Fantastic. I mean, you have to see it. They train kids to work in stone, in wood. So when there is a project to restore old buildings, churches, or
You have that skilled
yes, you have skilled
labor
workers that
ready.
they make a living,
Very
and they can be
good.
hired for that. So, what answering to your question is, we see the Spanish heritage in the Philippines is Filipino heritage, and when Filipino authorities or the Filipino audience wants to access it, where they need our support for that, the support of the Spanish administration, they can have it, and they
Yes.
have it. As far as Instituto is concerned, we focus in the 21st century, in the modern expressions of culture. One example, with the Spanish embassy started a couple of years ago, is Posporos. Posporos is matches. No?
Yes.
So what we do is we match Spanish bands indie rock bands, or with that they're coming out with great talent with Filipino independent bands, and they play a concert together.
Interesting, the title, huh? Posporo. It's like you start a fire. So you put
And
them together and then, you
in
know,
the sense that there is a
hopefully-
match. Yeah,
Yes.
there is a match. And then
Yeah.
certainly the sparks are there. I would recommend you, we're having more Posporos concerts this year, and on our Facebook, Instituto Cervantes Manila, we will be updating those.
Is it very successful,
Very,
this
very.
Posporo?
Yeah.
Posporos?
Posporos. And then we target these younger audiences that they go for rock or independent contemporary music. For those that are, like me, more into the classic scene, we have in the Dia del Libro on April 23, we have an outdoor concert of waltzers, zarzuela,
Yes.
with the Manila Symphony Orchestra, like last year, was very successful.
We'll talk about Dia del Libro in a while, but before we jump into that, interesting you mentioned your thrust towards the 21st century and reaching out to that new crowd, basically the young millennials,
Right.
who igniting or reigniting that Spanish heritage that we all, as Filipinos, we all have. It's inseparable. We have 350 plus years of history together. And I understand that Instituto Cervantes is making a push back to the heartland of Filipino-Spanish relations, which is Intramuros.
Yes, for us it's a very dearly place, and we're opening in Intramuros a cultural space, a cultural center called Casa Azul. It will be open in May, this coming May, with a huge library, research library, classrooms, a big auditorium for movie screenings, for concerts, an exhibiting room, and a beautiful patio. This is in line with the support that in this administration and in previous years for a long time there has been great support for the development of cultural tourism, for the revitalization of Intramuros. Intramuros administration is doing a great job in reviving. I remember Intramuros back in 2004, and of course this has been a work in progress for different administrations, and it's showing now, and it's bursting with activities. There was just the Manila Biennale that my tocayo Carlos Celdran has started, and we are providing as much support as we can with many other cultural agents in the Philippines. The point is, now Intramuros it's a place to go. There's so many things. There are different museums. There are more coming. Intramuros administration has given all the support that they can, and we are really, really looking forward to start having activities there and to make it even more attractive.
Yes, and to revive the place, because a lot of people have kind of forgot about Intramuros already, and because of the traffic, perhaps people don't get as often. But really, it really has so much to offer. And interesting, you should mention Manila Biennale, because my guests last week were actually we talked about the Manila Biennale, and unfortunately Carlos couldn't make it to GNN last week, but his better half, Tessa Celdran, was here, and we talked about what's going on. And understand the Spanish have an artist here who's also participating in a very significant way in the Biennale.
Yes, we brought Nicolás Combarro, that in collaboration with Huawei, a Filipina artist, they did a joint project. The Embassy of Spain and Instituto Cervantes, as part of it, have made a significant effort to be part of it. We also published Perro Verde, which is the Spanish-Filipino magazine that is published once a year under the care of the Embassy of Spain. Amazing. You have to see it. I will give you.
Yes.
I will send copies. It's a very interesting. There's so much interest, and there are different ways that you can see it. Like some Filipinos, they want to get to know more about contemporary Spain, what is going on in the artistic scene. That's where Nicolás Combarro came into the picture. Some other Filipinos, they want to get to know more about their own heritage. And we have students in Instituto that they say, well, I'm taking Spanish classes because I want to read José Rizal. And
in the original form, right?
Exactly.
Yes.
And Rizal was writing, or Bonifacio, or Aguinaldo, the fathers of the Republic, they were writing in Spanish as their language, not as a foreign language.
Yes.
So there is that segment of our audience, or our public, that they are addressing their own heritage. There are others that they want to know more about what's going on in Latin America. And as we mentioned before, Instituto also has the task of promoting the cultures of the Spanish-speaking countries. Mexico, Argentina, Peru, Chile.
Plenty.
Exactly.
Yes.
All in all, 22, 23 countries have Spanish as an official language. I think last year it was Jamaica made it official
Really?
also, yeah. A number of years ago was Brazil.
So Jamaica adopted Spanish as official language, and then the Philippines, it's no longer one of our official languages. You know, that's pretty ironic.
I mean, not for me to say, no, because I know what I can
Yeah.
tell is that I have seen many Filipinos when I talk with them or they tell me about it, they always, 100% of the time, they mention it in terms of regret, in a way. Like it's a pity that it was removed from
Que
the...
lástima.
Yes,
Yes,
from the
that's- yeah,
public education
What a
system.
pity. Yes.
But in fairness, I mean, efforts are there, and the Department of Education and the Spanish Agency for Cooperation, the Ministry of Culture of Spain, and Instituto Cervantes, they had an agreement to train the teachers of Spanish in the DEPET, in the Department of Education, and reintroduce it as a optional subject in the secondary education.
We'll talk about the development, or let's say, I'll put it, the deterioration of the Spanish language in the Philippines, second segment. But it's interesting that, you know, Instituto Cervantes, that you are kind of making it back to your roots, because I remember in the old days, you guys were always in Manila. You were
Sí.
near St. Scholastica's, and then you
Sí.
went to Calao, and back to Makati, and now there's something pulling you back to Intramuros.
Well, no, I mean, we never stopped being in Manila because it's in our name, but Instituto Cervantes de
Yes,
Manila.
yes.
And I made the effort that when we left Manila and we transferred to Makati, we also signed an agreement to have a space in Manila, that we will be in Intramuros. We don't want to be Makati centric, the same way we wouldn't like to be Manila centric, but we are growing as the demand is telling us to go, and we are looking forward. I mean, in Manila, there are so many things going on. There's the
Absolutely. Yeah. And there's a vibe
yes
that you
yes,
don't
yes,
have in
yes.
Makati, you don't have anywhere else except Manila.
There is a different vibe, and there are so many initiatives. Also, I'm just thinking of the Ermita Malate Business Owners Association.
Very active group.
Yes, exactly,
Yes.
exactly.
Trying to gentrify the place again.
Yes, and it's I think it's, and one day one promoter or entrepreneur will realize on the significant value that is on the other side of the Pasig, in Binondo and in Quiapo, where those buildings, and there's spectacular houses left from the mid-1800s.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And there's also a place where people go for good food, because there are great restaurants there. So
Excellent.
that combination is very interesting. If I mean, I'm not an entrepreneur, but I think sooner or later someone will realize.
Yes. Carlos, we have paused for a break. When we come back, we'll talk more about the Spanish language and how you guys in Instituto Cervantes are helping us Filipinos get in touch with our Spanish-speaking heritage when we return. So guys, more Spanish culture and heritage when Global Village returns.
It doesn't matter where you come from. Once you discover Spain, a part of it remains with you. Spain is part of you.